All right, we're live. I'm kind of excited about it, about the stream today. Honestly, I actually kind of didn't feel like live streaming. It's been a really rough few days. Yesterday, we got the news that a really good friend of mine, Nathan Schultz, passed away in his sleep. And it just kind of sucked. It's like heartbreaking. It's like none of us expected it. It's a friend of ours. My wife was even closer with Nathan. Her sister was even closer with Nathan. I was pretty close with Nathan. We used to bond back in the day because of both of us having lost our fathers. And like it's a really weird thing because it's like a friend of mine that I was pretty close to in college. And it was just kind of out of nowhere. So yesterday I didn't live stream. I kind of canceled my plans and we headed up to Orange County and kind of met up with people who knew Nathan and just made sure everybody was okay. And we're all kind of reeling from it. So it's been a rough, I think I've vlogged about it, but it's been a rough month of a lot of sickness and people with bad diagnoses, and just it's been a really heavy a heavy month. And I don't usually start off my stream like that, but because of the heaviness of the month, I was gonna do a cover of a song that, like, before I get into drawing today, that I get a lot of encouragement from. It's like one of my favorite songs of all time, and it talks about kind of like mortality. And I guess that I'm going to do a cover of it. So I was planning on doing that anyway, but then the news about Nathan just kind of made it like solidified that it's something I think I should cover. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cover Airplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel. It's not going to be as good as the original, but I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to get into coloring comics like I usually do on this stream. And just try to kind of work through the loss of a friend, which, you know, again, like I wasn't the closest with Nathan, but I was like, you know, I did feel bonded to him, and anybody who knew this guy, like he was one of those people who you would meet and within an hour you're like, you know, getting these giant, amazing bear hugs from. He's just like a big teddy bear of a guy. And he loved comics, and he was a really talented writer and a hilarious person. He wrote a comic called Shrouded City that I really liked, and published that, and was doing conventions and just hustling his wares and making short films, and just an insanely talented creative. And the world is at a loss without this guy, and I'm at a loss without him. I'm getting I don't want to think I don't want to get too heavy into it because I need to color comics today. But I'm going to cover this song, and then we'll get into drawing some comics. And sorry to start my stream off like on a darker note, but it's just one of those times where there are seasons in life that are super dark and honestly kind of unfair. So okay, here we go. I'm going to cover Airplane Over the Sea, and this would go out to Nathan for sure. So here we go. Hopefully I don't butcher it. All right. Let me move this down real quick so we get better audio. Okay, here we go. What a beautiful face I have found in this place that is circling all around the sun. What a beautiful dream that could flash on the screen in the blink of an eye and be gone from me. Soft and sweet, let me hold it close and keep it here with me. ashes will fly from the airplane over the sea. But for now we are young, let us lay in the sun and count every beautiful thing we can see. Love to be in the arms of all I'm keeping here with me. What a curious life we have found here tonight. There is music that sounds from the street. There are lights in the cloud, Anna's ghosts all around. Hear voices, it's rolling and ringing through me. Soft and sweet, how the notes all bend and reach above the trees. Now how I remember you, how I would push my fingers through your mouth to make those muscles move, and made your voice so smooth and sweet. Now we keep where we don't know, all secrets sleep in winter clothes with the one you loved so long ago. Now you don't even know his name. What a beautiful face I have found in this place that is circling all around the sun. When we meet on a cloud, I'll be laughing out loud. I'll be laughing with everyone I can see. Can't believe how strange it is to be anything at all. All right, so that was Airplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel, and we're going to get into, I'll put my guitar away, and then we'll get into drawing some comics and try to kind of move forward. And hopefully I can kind of hold it together during the stream. I'm going to miss Nathan, and it sucks. Like, one of the things that's hard about kind of getting older is you have these people that you really connect with and really bond with, and people you love, and we're all in like disparate cities and different locations and stuff like that. And Nathan was somebody I always assumed I'd just like bump into at like a Comic-Con. I'm doing Long Beach Comic-Con in like September, and I thought I'd probably bump into Nate there because he usually does Long Beach, and it's I'm still processing it. So anyhow, that's my little cover out to Nate, and we're gonna get into drawing some comics. Let me put this back and we'll get through it. Yeah, and hopefully the audio was okay and that wasn't like a terrible cover. I made the mistake of like covering a song that's excellent, and it's kind of like redesigning a really good logo, where, you know, if you're a student and you're like trying to kind of do a logo redesign or rebrand, you don't want to pick like the best designed logo. Like, you may not want to start with like a Milton Glaser. You might want to start with like a badly designed logo, so your redesign always looks better. It's like that, but with a song. Like, to me, that is one of the best songs ever written. So inevitably I'm not going to get it perfect, but I gave it a shot. Christopher said, sorry for your loss. Great rendition of a song by a great band for your pal. Good of you. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna get into this. We're gonna draw, and let me try to kind of get this set up too. So all I have to do today on this live stream, it'll be a fairly short one, possibly, in theory. I'm gonna be practicing with my band around like 2 as well, and today. So I at the latest, at the very longest, this is going to go is till 2. But we'll kind of see how that goes. I hope you guys are having a creative morning, and I definitely don't want to. My goal here wasn't to like bum everybody out, but I also try to be pretty transparent on these vlogs, because I kind of feel like we're building communities and kind of relationships on the internet, and my art tends to be about authenticity and vulnerability, so I try to be authentic and vulnerable, even if like times are not super perfect. And also deadlines still exist. Like, one of the toughest things about losing people is that life continues, and you just kind of have to keep rocking. So yeah, anyhow, let's see here. So yeah, so yesterday the plans got kind of laid pretty bare. Like, we just kind of headed up and grieved with a lot of friends, people who were friends with Nate, and it was kind of bittersweet, because we saw a lot of people that we haven't seen in years, and like I got to meet a really good friend's kid that I haven't seen because of the pandemic and stuff. Like, we'd never really met their child. Like, I've just seen their daughter on like Facebook and stuff, and so it was nice to put an adorable little name to their new kids, or an adorable little face to their new kid's name. And yeah, it was bittersweet. It was like catching up with a lot of college friends that we still love and care for, but we just don't get to kind of see very often. It was a pretty rough day, honestly. So we're kind of today, trying to kind of get back to normal. My and her sister just went looking for Halloween stuff at stores, which is, we're all kind of nerds for Halloween in this household. And I'm just going to try to kind of rock more comics, which I love comics. So that's a good distraction. I guess that might be kind of a good thing to talk about. Like, when you have creative projects, for me, I'm often thankful for the distractions in my life. Like, quite often, everybody processes grief differently, but for me, I tend to just kind of lean into work, and of course I turn to my faith and stuff like that, but I also lean pretty hard into work, and that's usually the way I kind of cope with the uncopable. But I also feel like I'm not alone on this. Like, I know Adam, who was on stream last time, just recently lost someone. And I know like a lot of people right now, I don't know if it's just like something specific about like this month or something, but it feels like everyone I know is getting hit with some heavy shit, So anyhow, if you were out there and you're getting hit with heavy shit, I apologize in advance for the horrible stuff that's been going on in the world. But we'll get through it, like, collectively, I think, together. Paul said, just tuning in. I missed your song. I take it friend died. Sorry, man. That's hard. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, It's sad too because he wasn't. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but it's like he wasn't. He wasn't even 40. You know. He was younger than me, and so it's just very unexpected. So we're all kind of figuring it out, and yeah. But I feel like I mean it's weird. So that you know, it's funny. I did a post pretty recently. That was just a vlog that was like before all this, where you know we've been dealing with a lot of you know people that are close to us like diagnosed with like cancer and like just a lot of heavy you know stuff that I've kind of implied, but a lot of it has to do with just this like strange amount of people we know getting cancer recently. And so it's been this weird like I've talked about this, but there's this like weird juxtaposition where it's like professionally there's been just immensely cool things that have been happening in my life, and then personally there's just these immensely heartbreaking things, and it's like kind of navigating the two. It gets very confusing, you know, because even like today, like you know I thought I was too late to apply for Long Beach Comic Con, and then I got an email from the promoter today, and we're set. So I got a booth at Artist Alley, and so that's really good for my book, and like it'll be fun. I think Ben is gonna come, and like um, my wife's gonna hang out at this con too. So we're gonna make like a little weekend of it. So it's like it's weird to juxtapose that with like the fact that we just lost a friend. It's really and here's the thing is like I don't think I'm unique in this. I think we're all kind of navigating our own successes and tragedies. Um, you know, and so like I definitely don't want to do a stream where I'm like, hey, you guys should be bummed for me or something. I don't I don't want that. You guys are going to have enough of your own struggles to sort of have to carry the burden of someone else's, you know. Oh, hey, how's it going, Ben? What's up?
I heard what you were saying.
Uh-huh.
I kind of want to discuss this in private.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of streaming right now though. Do you want me to talk about it with you real quick? Hang on, I'll be right back. I'm sorry. I think my son wants to have a conversation real quick. I'll be right back. You know what I'll do? I will put on I'll put on the trailer for Jacob's apartment. Let's see. Okay. Clearly it seems that only in dreams can we these things we've seen and walk around breathing I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. Okay, so my son was concerned because we were talking about comic book convention, and he tends to react. He tends to not like the idea of going anywhere outside of the house, because he's really into like his iPad and stuff. And then like he'll end up going and having a good time, but he has like he wanted to find out more details on what would be happening there. And I don't think he's ever been to a comic book convention, so I think he has an idea in his head of like what it's like, but I think he'll enjoy it like once he checks it out. But anyhow, that's what he wanted to talk about. So yeah, that was what we just discussed, and hopefully, he'll be interested. I figure the fact that there's usually a lot of people in costumes and kids and toys, and he'll be able to see his grandpa and all sorts of stuff will be something he'll be into. Paul Pate said, "We're getting on, Josh. Remember when you would be around old people and they're always talking about who's in the hospital and who's passed on? As the years go on, we get closer to being them." Yeah, it definitely gives you empathy, where it's like, it's not like we're, that distant from, people who've, become very aged and older. Like it's like we are the future generation that's going to be filling old folks' homes at some point. And so it makes you it humanizes other people, I think, in a really nice way. That's very bittersweet, but yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Christopher said, "I did a video last night with my wife, Lori, talking about a book by the mom from Little House on the Prairie. It's cool when you can engage with your wife on stuff you like. Do you like the con?" Yeah, and the cool thing about my wife is like super nerdy about comics. Like one of the things we first bonded on early in our relationship, when we were like before we even dated, like most of our conversations were about like Neil Gaiman books and like and like different animations and stuff like that, because she's an illustrator, and does kids books and stuff and loves comic books. So it's like we would go to conventions all the time together, when we were younger. So it's definitely like it's a good bonding experience, but also like yeah, my wife like is a super nerd in a good way. So yeah, there's that. Let's see what else. Paul said, "The way your son approached you was the cutest and best thing ever." Yeah, it was adorable. He kind of grabbed he was like tugging on my shirt. He's like, "Can I talk to you about something in private?" It was adorable. He is the cutest and best. He's a very like, my son is a very good kid. Like he's I'm very impressed by him. He's very creative too. Right now he's building. What are you working on, Ben, back there?
I wasn't making anything. I was just playing with these guys.
Just playing with your Legos?
I took my regular Among Us Legos and I gave them all hats.
Nice. He built some Legos that look like the Among Us characters, and he's making them hats right now. So that's pretty awesome. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Among Us, the game, but my son is a big fan. And he made these big Legos. He made like an Among Us game, like Among Us characters. Christopher was saying it's super cool you took a moment for your son. Well, your kids always come first. Like at the end of the day, my son's probably the most important thing for me. So Paul said, "I saw you on Artcasters and really enjoyed it. Your enthusiasm is this was him saying for Christopher. He said, "I saw you on Artcasters, really enjoyed it. Your enthusiasm is just great. Plus, you have a silky smooth voice." I agree with that. Christopher is one of the most inspiring people we've had on there. There's occasional guests we'll have on Artcasters. He's running around in the background like a maniac because that's my son. But yeah, like we have, we've had quite a few guests on Artcasters, but every once in a while we'll have a guest. A good example of another person similar to Christopher. Did you get a snack? Oh, do you want me to open that for you, bud, or you got it?
I got it.
Okay. He grabbed a chocolate from the fridge, which is pretty rad. Let's see. So Jeremy Burley, I think, is an equally very inspiring guy where it's like anytime I hang out with the guy, anytime we've had him on Artcasters, it's just like I feel this it's almost like an injection of excitement about art. And it's like rocket fuel, creative rocket fuel. And I feel like I get that from Christopher as well, where it's like he's just a very inspiring and honestly just I was thinking about this. This can lead to an interesting topic about kind of passion, but I was thinking about when I was younger in school, I didn't really do really great in math. I was just completely disengaged from learning math. I was terrible at it. And one of the things I never connected with was and it was kind of similar with a lot of science too, which I've grown to love science as I've gotten older. But it's like there were I at the time thought it was because I was really bad at science or really bad at math, which by the way I am really bad at math, and probably really bad at technical practical applications of science. Like the lab work and stuff like that. I never was all that good at it. But I've started to realize that some of the problem was also, I don't like the idea of blaming teachers because I do feel like teachers get a real bad rap. But I do think I didn't have teachers who were passionate about what they were teaching. And so that did have an effect on my passion for a topic or a subject, because this is something I've learned as I've gotten older, but it's like, why should anyone be passionate about something that you're talking about if you're not passionate about it? And so I think that Christopher was the reason I was bringing that up. I think this ties into Christopher because I think he's probably a really excellent teacher as well, because he's one of those people who loves art and the process so much that it just kind of translates when he's talking about it. And he can kind of bring the excitement that he has for the subject to the audience. And I think that's a real gift. And it's definitely the mark of a good teacher and a good and just a good spokesperson for the arts, So anyhow, I'm done saying nice stuff about Christopher. Anything after this is all going to be mean. No, I'm just kidding. Christopher also sent me a bunch of his comics, and I think I showed them on stream briefly. Ben, are you doing a dance for everybody? That was pretty awesome. He's being goofy. It's kind of funny in the background. My son's doing a lot of goofy stuff. But anyhow, so I showed him on stream before, but I'll show you guys again. So let me grab him. Man, so silly. All right, so yeah, so Christopher sent me this awesome just set of amazing comics as promised on our interview, and I'm so excited about digging into them. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's one of the hard parts about kind of getting further in art and stuff is just one of those weird moments of like when you start having more and more friends in creative, and then they send you their books. It's like now I have a stack of books that I'm more excited than ever to read. But also when you're making books, it's like this weird irony where it's like you make the friends a lot of the time in creative because you're making the work. And then because you're making the work, you barely have any time. Like I've talked about this on stream too. Like my publisher had sent me this brilliant comic, and I'll mention the name of it. I don't think it's, it has a release date or anything, but it's called Mare. And when it comes out, like it's a book I will highly recommend, and I'll mention more about it. But they wanted a pull quote for the book, and so I was like, I will get that to you immediately. And it took me about 3 weeks to be able to just finally sit down, look at the book, analyze it, and try to come up with some passable pull quotes that hopefully they can use. And of course, because of imposter syndrome, right? Like when I sent the quotes about the book, I was like, it gave like 3 different options. I'm like, I don't know if any of these are usable or going to help you market the book. But it's a good book, So it took me anyhow, my point is, I'm excited about Christopher's books. And I'm also like, now I really want, I want to finish this graphic novel so that I can go on vacation and just bring a stack of books and just read. That is my goal. That is, that's going to be my rocket fuel that motivates me to finish this graphic novel, is like, do this to read some books, man. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, Paul was saying rocket fuel, yes. And then Christopher said, I'm enjoying that panel Josh is working. Solid depth in that image, and the colors are progressing that distance further. Thank you. And then Paul called me a master. I am a master. I was going to make the classic joke about fishermen. But anyhow. And then Paul said, are all of those comics the one-page style? Yeah, Christopher was saying, I hear that I've got a stack to read, but I'm also coloring a page while playing your podcast in the studio. Yeah. That's one nice thing about audio, right? Is it is kind of I think one of the reasons, at least as artists, we love podcasts and audiobooks, and I don't know, there's something great about vlogs and live streams. It's things you can put on, and then they can keep you company in the studio, and hopefully maybe you'll learn a thing or two, or or get some interesting, information, or at minimum get some entertainment, and also hopefully feed that fix for work. What's up, Ben? What do you need? Okay, I gotta go get my kid milk. Sorry, my wife usually will kind of do this stuff while I'm live streaming, but she is shopping for Halloween stuff with her sister. And so I am going to have to kind of disappear every once in a while. So I'm going to go get my kid milk. But this is an opportunity for me to play some plugs too. So we're going to rock that business. So I will play the trailer for 2 Stories whilst I am gone. Okay, so here's the trailer for 2 Stories. Sorry about the me disappearing every once in a while, but it is a Sunday morning stream, and so that is to be expected. All right, here we go. Here's the trailer for 2 Stories. I'll be right back. All right, back. Dadding. That's all I'm saying. So, I gotta thank you for bringing the milk to the kid, and I'm making some progress here. I've asked Jim too if I can share a screenshot, so hopefully he'll give the okay. I'll see if he got back. He's probably busy right now. Yeah, I haven't gotten the okay yet, so I won't be able to share it. But I know that we're going to be making a Corey Kerr and I might be appearing in the background of a future Jim Lujan animation, which I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping I can share with you guys soon. But I think that'll be for The Night Eats Its Own, which is pretty exciting as well. Which is Jim Lujan's upcoming animation. And I can just tell you it's pretty epic. It's pretty amazing. I was also like, I was going to scrap the In the Airplane Over the Sea cover before getting the dreadful news about my friend in favor of covering John Henry Unicorn, which is a unicornian hymn written by Jim Lujan. And I will tell you on a future date, when I have the time to kind of go through it. It's not super crazy chord structures, so I think I'll be able to cover that for Jim on a future stream. So keep that in mind, Jim. I have not ignored the John Henry Unicorn thing. I don't think I need to be shunned from the Church of the Unicorn. And if you guys haven't, you guys should, on Jim Lujan's channel, to prepare for my cover of it, which I'll do on a future stream. And the times I'm going to do songs, I think, on this are going to be on weekends when I'm able to do that, and it's not like 2 a.m. where I'll get murdered by everyone in my household for waking them up because I'm playing songs. But during the weekends, during the day streams that I'm able to do, I can play guitar and get a little loud. So yeah, I'm hoping to do that cover probably maybe next week, and if I'm not busy. And then also I was gonna say, if you guys are in the Long Beach area, I'm gonna be at Long Beach Comic-Con on September 3rd and 4th. I'm stunned that they still had space available because it's so close. Like usually with conventions, you need to like book like half a year earlier. And so I was pretty stoked that they still had room in Artist Alley for me. And so I will be at Artist Alley at Long Beach Comic-Con. And I'll be able to give you guys booth numbers and stuff like that, hopefully, or table numbers at some point. But that's at the Long Beach Convention Center, September 3rd and 4th, I believe. So it's like Saturday and Sunday, which is great. So I'm really excited about that because I do need to do more to kind of promote Jacob's Apartment. So I'll be selling copies of Jacob's Apartment and 2 Stories and my first comic book, Numb, there. And yeah, that was kind of fun news. Let's see here. Christopher said, oh, there's some fun stuff. Paul was saying, same Christopher, one of Josh's is on my pile. And he said, now I might have to add yours to my pile. I know, right? Like that's the funnest thing, is make the pile. And again, like I'm really looking forward to, like, to me, that's going to be my big reward when I'm done with Not Death But Love. It's going to be like reading Extravaganza, because I mean a lot of us are doing this stuff because we love comics, so it's like that is really a good reward device to kind of help make us all excited about kind of getting through our books. Christopher said the latest book is. Oh, I think this is in regards to like the single stories question that Paul gave. He said some of those are anthologies I've published by others, and I think one of my solo books as well. That's awesome. Thank you, Christopher. And then Christopher said, that's nice of you, Paul. I'd love to see what you do. Dude, you should check out Paul Pate. I mentioned his Detective Perez series all the time on this stream. I absolutely love it. You can pick him up on Amazon. He's got 2 full graphic novels done, and they're incredible. And then he also does a comic called Samurai Tie and other stuff. But I would say like a good intro is get the if you're gonna pick something up by Paul Pate, I would say pick this up. I don't know, Paul, if you have something you'd prefer, but I think this is a really good introduction. Detective Perez wrote "Welcome to Rust City." And then he said, do you prefer we buy books through or have them ordered through my local store? I would say that ideally getting it through your local store. You can even do it through a big box chain store. Like you could go to like a Barnes and Noble, you could go to a library. I highly recommend that because that gets them to actually carry the book. And honestly, if you can do it through like a local mom and pop place or a comic book shop, that's even better. But whatever kind of works for you guys, because I also know for some people shipping fees are insane, or like maybe the stores, are just way outside of their budget. And in that case, I'm not going to like crap on somebody for using Amazon. But I do think, especially in the case of 2 stories, because it's hard to order through a store, in that case, like go through whatever source you can go through. Amazon's fine. But with Jacob's Apartment, because it's distroed by Diamond, it's pretty much available at any store. You can just tell them it's like in the Diamond order catalog under Graphic Mundi and Jacob's Apartment by Joshua Kemble. So it should be available everywhere. So whatever works best for you, but ideally, yes, support your local stores. Ask them to kind of carry it. And the thing I've been pushing really recently, which actually makes a really big difference, is like, if you're ever at a library, just ask that they have it there, ask them like, can you guys like get a copy of this to carry at your local library? Because that's cool on multiple ways, because that also makes the book available to other people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it, or people who like to check out graphic novels through their local library. And librarians are like a huge part of what makes comics successful. They tend to advocate for comics. I think librarians are probably like 90% of why we even see comic books in bookstores is a lot of behind the scenes work that was done by advocates at libraries, like people who are advocating for comics. And I'm a little biased because my sister is a librarian. So that one of my sisters is a librarian. So of course I'm very pro librarian. But even before she became a librarian, I still would just like, I don't know, like anytime I'm at a con and a librarian comes by my booth, I'm like, sweet, this is the best customer ever. Like librarians and librarians are amazing people just in general for books. Like they're doing wonders. So that was a long-winded way of answering a really good question. Thanks for asking that, Chris, too. I really appreciate that. All right, let's see here. Christopher said, place the order for Jacob's Apartment through the comic store, and I worked out for 21 years. Heroes Comics. Here, let me give you a shout out, because if they are ordering it, Heroes Comics in London, Ontario. It's huge. That's awesome. I have to say, like, the comic scene in Canada that I was introduced to a little bit, I just got a little window into it. I mean, obviously, my favorite publisher of of comics is Drawn and Quarterly. I would say it's Pantheon, right? But it's like, no, it's Drawn and Quarterly, because almost everything good by Pantheon was put out through Drawn and Quarterly. And Drawn and Quarterly, I believe, is a Canadian publisher. I feel like there's so much good cartooning in Canada. Anyhow, but I don't know a ton about Canada other than my dad used to live in Toronto for a little bit before I was born. And so I heard stories of Canada. And then I have, I've been very honored to kind of start having some followers who live in Canada, like of my stuff. And I'm excited about just, I don't know, I'm a little envious, honestly, of you guys. I feel like the art scene, and again, like I'm sure it's dependent on different areas. Like somebody could say, man, the United States really has a ton of thriving comics. And it's like, yeah, certain areas of the United States, but not all of the United States. But I have to say, I have like a very biased view from my experience at TCAF. It was just so unlike the comic conventions that I've been to in the US. However, I'll also say, like, if I were to pick like something in the US that would be comparable, it would be something like SPX. And my publisher was totally going to have me at SPX, and I just couldn't do it because, and I think that's in Maryland, but it's like, I've heard SPX is kind of comparable to TCAF. And so to be fair, like I unfortunately didn't get to do that this year because it's like to do a trip like that and then also do it when it's like rush season at your work. It's just not, there's no way I could do that in a good conscience and like leave my art team behind when we're at like our busiest season of the year. Even if my employer would be okay with that, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that to my team. But yeah, so that was a long-winded way of saying, yeah, Canada's rad. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little envious. I have to say, there was a part of me at the end of the TCAF experience that was like, should I just not get on the plane? Should I just stay here forever? And then I was like, well, I guess my kid's cool and my wife's cool, so I guess I'll go back. But I think had I not had a wife and kid, waiting for me like at home, not that they're like sitting around waiting for me. If I didn't return, they might be like, sweet. I'm joking, by the way, but it's like, it's just one of those things of like, man, I just was very impressed and envious of Canada. I think I've mentioned this before too, but it's like, man, things get so volatile here in the States that there's times where, man, I've definitely thought about like, how do you go about the dual citizen? How do I get citizenship? I don't think they'd take me, but still, it gets tempting to look into like being an expat sometimes, as much as I like the US. But then again, I gotta say, I can't complain about the weather. Like, I absolutely adore the weather in California. My wife and I lived in the Northwest for a while, and it was ultimately like being near family and weather that brought us back here to California with our crazy, insane, overpriced rent and stuff like that. Paul said, Christopher, I just come on here and compliment Josh. It's my full-time job. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the check's in the mail. Thank you, Paul. And then Christopher said, place the order. Oh, okay. You mentioned the order. Christopher said, it's cold here. We stay inside and make art to keep warm. And then Christopher said, I'm applying to go to SPX for next year. Well, I might try to make it work next year, because I've heard so many positive things like about that. Okay, the big conventions that through my time in indie comics, I've heard just untold compliments about are SPX, Mocha in New York, and then TCAF. And having gone to TCAF, I have to say, like, it was a good con. It was a good convention. So now I just have to check out Mocha at some point, and I definitely have to check out SPX. And then I can, like, you know, say I've been to most of the conventions I'd like to check out. There's a whole bunch of other ones too, you know. There's like, I think one called Space. There's a bunch of cool indie comic conventions, but those are like the big ones I've just heard about the most frequently. Just got a notification on my phone because I have Google News, and it said something like Arnold Schwarzenegger reveals recipe for success. And I'm sure the recipe has something to do with getting to the chopper. It has to be. I didn't even read the article, but I'm like, that must be it. That must be the recipe. It's like, you have to get to the chopper. I do. Adam really rightly, he was on my last live stream, and he very rightly, when I did my little Clement Greenberg bit, he reminded me, I had forgotten, but like there's that Conan O'Brien bit that was pretty amazing where he'd have Arnold Schwarzenegger on, and it was just a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger with like a blurred out mouth, and then somebody behind it going like, "Oh yeah, it's Arnold," and it was incredible. And maybe I'll mimic that at some point. Now that I have the immensely skillful technology to replicate it. Chris said, I don't blame Paul for coming on to compliment Joshua. It's important to support the good guys. Thank you. I try to be the good guys. Christopher Runciman said, Bavarian diet, covering oneself in mud. Yeah, I think so. I think something to that extent. Now I want to read that news article. You guys, I might be close to wrapping up this live stream. I usually would go longer, but it is looking more and more. I mean, I'm not wrapping up yet, but it is looking like we're almost done with the flat colors on the page that would not die. This was the worst page. Well, it wasn't the worst page. I'm happy about the page, but you know how when you're working on comics, occasionally you hit that page that you were like, I thought I'd be done with this 3 days ago. And then you're like, I thought I'd be done with this 2 days ago. And it just keeps hanging around because it just requires more and more work. This is that page. And I feel like this is a very Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque moment where I faced the page and I finished it, like I fearlessly kept carving away at it. And now we're close to done with a page that hopefully will be impressive to people who read it, so that the 5 seconds they spend reading, that's the irony of these comics is we labor these things, right? We labor over these comics, and ultimately most of these pages will be looked at for maybe a minute. Okay. I am kind of digging it. There's one other thing I want to try before we end the stream. Yeah, here we go. Recipe for success, persistence. I'll be back. Exactly. Paul said, I think I know how you did the mouth thing. I want to try it now. Yeah, it was just literally a transparent PNG. So I just pulled a picture of Clement Greenberg and just used an eraser, with a soft edge. I know you guys, I know I'm blowing the magic here, And then I live streamed it. So I can literally pull that back like anytime. And I can just put it on OBS like as a layer in front of my live feed. And then my mouth can just be like, blah, 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 like for whatever character I want. Paul said, Page is beautiful, Josh. All those background colors. Thanks. There's one other thing I want to try. I want to try color holding the background here. And so I have color held a little bit of color held a bit, but I want to color hold a bit more. So there's a couple things that I need to see if I can do, kind of make that happen. And I'm also wondering if that'll be possible. So, okay. First, we're going to find. Okay. A couple things I want to do. I want to color hold this sun over the area. And Philip Chandler said, wow, that's really come along nicely. Thank you. And Christopher said, you've come just in time for my Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions, which I cannot do for the life of me. All right. So I want to grab most of these color held areas, and we'll see if this works. Oh, that did work. Okay, that will work. Okay, so first we're going to separate the color holds a little bit. Oh, I need to paste in place. Okay, so I'm separating the color holds. And I just realized you guys aren't able to see a lot of like what I'm doing because I had the hopefully you can see the tools and layers now. So I separate the color holds here. There's a couple other things I want to do. I want to separate this color hold, these color held lines here, from my line layer. Okay. And now we're going to mess with a couple things. So we're going to see what we can do about color holding one more time this area, everything behind the patio, which is going to be a nightmare, but I think it would be cool. That might be overdoing it though. But it's worth a shot to kind of experiment real quick and see what happens. Is that going to work? Now, I'm not paying attention to the figures in the foreground. I'm just wondering if that'll work or if that's unnecessary. I think that's unnecessary. I think I'm overdoing it. Okay, let's not overdo it. Okay, the last thing we're going to do. Okay, we're at the hour point. Oh. Paul Pate said, what is color hold? Okay, so let me show you real quick. So color holding is when you have like, I'll turn off the my rendering layer. So color holding, like if you look at the black lines here, I have my lines all separated from the background, right? So it's just solid lines. And what you do a color hold is Disney does this a lot, but color hold is when you color the line. That's just the term for it. So it's like when you have like flat color underneath your line, like so. Color hold would be like, I'm going to color hold the face real quick. I'll just do it as an example. So I'll color hold her face. So maybe I color hold her face with like a slightly, hold on a sec. This should work in theory. Okay, so let's say I color hold her face with like a slightly darker value of like the color that's underneath it. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And because I've locked my transparent pixels, I'm just painting directly over. So like a color held line is like doing that, where you'd be like, okay, I'm going to color hold that line. Does that make sense? And Disney will do this a lot because it makes the saturation of the color underneath less desaturated. So we've all done color holds, but it's just a lot of people don't know that's the term for it. So when you do that, it's just called a color hold on the line. So if your line is black and it's color filled underneath, that's fine. And then if you color hold your line, that just means you're holding specific areas of color from the black and coloring it. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think it comes from, I'm trying to remember why the term color hold for colorists is used. I think it has to do with back in the day with like stat cams, you would hold an area of the color. Like I think there was a physical holding off from exposing certain areas that you wanted to be black. But anyhow, colorists call it a color hold. So Philip said, I know a number of artists who use this technique, but I could never figure it out in Photoshop. I mean, the key thing is just having your black line separate from your separated from the background. And then as long as you have that, then you can lock your transparent pixels and you can, you know, color your lines whatever the heck color you want. Okay, there's one last thing that we're going to do, and then we're going to call it a day for this stream. So, but we're not quite there yet. I was going to take a quick break, but I think we can just power through this. So I don't want to get in the habit of like inside on an interior doing a lot of rendering of white, because that's something I want to use in a very limited fashion. But I like the idea of these outdoor scenes. There's going to be just a little bit of white to render and kind of create like a sense of light. So I'm going to go over this and just add just a subtle bit of white light just painted over, kind of loosely painted over some of this landscape. And this is going to be like really mild little details. And again, this is an experiment. So if this is overdone and it just doesn't complement it at all, I will get rid of it. But I'm kind of going to test it out, because I have been doing this a little bit on this book when it's an outdoor scene and you have like a strong source of light like the sun right there. So we'll have to see if that works for just adding a little bit of light. And again, it might be overdone. We'll see. But I do like the idea of doing that. Okay, so Christopher said, I know how to do that in photography developing. It's burnishing. Yeah, so that might be, maybe that's why they called it color hold. You know, maybe that was just like the term colorists used to use when they'd burnish, maybe. I don't know, because the term color hold I learned from a friend of mine who, the guy who taught me how to color, which by the way, I'm breaking a lot of rules with this because this is more of like a looser painterly style. But in the more traditional, like flat coloring sense, the guy who taught me how to do it in Photoshop was a good friend of mine named Rick Reese, who was a colorist. His first job out of college was being a colorist for Bongo Comics. And he worked there with, I believe, Mark Hamill's son worked with him. But he also like learned color, I think, from Dave Stewart, the colorist, not the member of the Eurythmics, but the colorist Dave Stewart, who did all of Hellboy. And so anyhow, like he trained me. My friend Rick trained me how to do flat color in that way, in the method that they use, which is part of why I get really specific quite often with my CMYK levels, where I'll do it in like percentages of 5 quite often. That's just like a thing I picked up from Rick, who picked that up from like Dave Stewart. And so, but he's the guy I learned that term from, of color holding and stuff like that. Because I didn't know the word for it either until he kind of talked about it. But that was years ago, like almost 10 years ago now. But I really owe a lot of my career to Rick. I think he's the chair of the illustration department at Cal State Long Beach nowadays. But at the time, I just had one of his classes, and then we became friends because we both like punk rock and skateboarding and comics. So but yeah, that guy actually would help me get my first professional work, all sorts of stuff. Like, good memories of that dude. I'm sure we all have a guy like that, in our lives, like somebody who really helped us out early on in our careers. Okay, so I want to see it with the light and without. You know what? I think this does work better with the light, and that's going to do it. I'm done with the stream. So I'll see you guys. Have a good night. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. I just said good night, but a good day. I might be doing a live stream a little later today. Who knows? But now I got to get to all that fun drawing stuff after having lunch and other stuff like that. So, all right. Have a good night or day. Again, I said night. And thanks for hanging out with me on my stream. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you pick up Jacob's Apartment, 2 Stories, and also that you are subscribed and hit the bell. And I would also recommend check out Christopher Runciman's work, check out Philip Chandler's work, check out Paul Pate's work. One of the cool things about these live streams is a lot of the people who hang out in the chats are like really accomplished, good, talented cartoonists themselves. And so make sure you check out their stuff. Have a good Sunday, guys, and I hope all goes well. All right, bye.